Hello and welcome to Coffee and Bonsai with Tom. I've got a special episode for you today. As you can see, we've got two turntables and a microphone. We're going to turn it up here and have a good time. I've got a lot of tiny mame to prune here. Um, so I'm going to spin on the right, spin on the left, and narrate you through the whole thing. I think we've got 12 trees here. You can see they've grown really well. I brought them in the fall, and most of my trees just like to take off that way. I've switched them around here. I'm gonna pull from the left, prune on the right, and then put the trees back. I initially had them on the wrong side, and if you don't get the two turntables and a microphone reference, I will put a link to a music video in the description, and you can enjoy a little walk down memory lane of a classic carefree time of musical enjoyment with the infamous Beck. But without further ado, let's get this party started. The first Mame tree is a little Portulacaria afra. This is a cork bark variety I took from a cutting. Don't remember where from, and it's in this white pot. I handmade this pot. It's the first pot I ever made. You can see I went very geometric with it. Um, I had no idea what I was doing, but look, I've got little feet on it. It's very functional as a bonsai pot. So I'm just gonna take it back and neaten it up, and then we'll see where we want to go from it. But it's kind of a funny story in this pot. We did it as it was a company team bonding thing when I was out in San Francisco with my team, and I started talking to this woman who was working to the left of me. Went to this pottery studio, and I have some I did on a wheel too. It was fun. I recommend it if you have any interest at all. It's just, and you don't mind touching clay. But we had a lot of fun, and I'm making this pot, and despite its appearance, it took me quite a while. And I remember talking to this woman beside me because she was very interested in learning all about bonsai, and I like to talk. So there you go. And I was working so hard in this pot, and at the very end, she's kind of watching me, and we're chatting, and she goes, shouldn't bonsai pots be a lot shallower, And so I was like, thinking like, yeah, they really should, but I don't want to have to water this thing every 20 minutes was my thought, but it was a fun class, and I really liked her, and I think this one is getting getting pretty close. I mean, it definitely looks, you could see this as a little tree standing out in the middle of a farmer's field, maybe near a stream. Um, and it's quite charming. And look at the trunk on it. Quite a little looker there. So I'll clear the deck here and choose the next victim or tree, and we'll get moving. Yeah, this is kind of fun. I don't prune these as often as I should, because it does take a while, because if you're doing, they're tiny. This is a tree I call Little Blue, also a cork bark. What I find is I really I take cuttings off of these Frankie cork barks, and I just cannot resist not propagating them. And it's so easy in water, and then I put them in these tiny pots. Now this one is, um, I mean, I think it's an original cutting from one of the trees I had. So we're kind of going on 2 years here, living in this pot. Um, you can see the pot is quite dirty, or as I like to call it, patina. And I'm just going to prune it up. It really is. You really kind of have to watch these a little bit, but you get lots of miniaturization in these. When you constrain the roots into these tiny pots that hardly hold any water. It really it really miniaturizes everything, and I repotted this one. I think this tree was also a victim of my overwatering automation, and so I had to pull it out of the pot, and it had root rot, and I think there's a video of that whole process, and I'll put a link to it in the description. And I thought I was going to lose it, but you can see it's quite healthy. These trees really love being outside. I think it's just the moisture out there. I have to water them less often. I think under the artificial lights, I have some pretty strong lights and it just sort of bakes these little fellas. So they are much happier when they get outside. I should probably figure out how to wire up a shelf with less light. But a little adversity builds character is kind of I mean, you get really tight growth. You just really have to water them. I mean, I'm watering these sometimes every day, particularly if it's cool and the heater's been on a lot. It doesn't directly blow on the trees, but you get some air circulation in the room in my office where I have my indoor shelves, which isn't a bad thing. I think it helps, but yeah, it does dry them out. So yeah, I'm just taking it back, and I always try to get rid of anything growing to the inside of the tree or branches or even leaves growing straight up or straight down, and really just kind of simplify it and get it down to its bare essence, so that it can grow some more. You really have to regularly prune these things to keep them small, or they sort of outgrow your space, and you may have to put them in a larger pot, which I may eventually do at some point. I've done that with other mame where I get sort of tired of maintaining it as a tiny tree, but this one is so charming, and it really has, even though they're small and in these tiny pots, they definitely thicken up over time. And so, yeah, I really uh, recommend them. Particularly, it gives you a lot to do because, like I said, they require significantly more care than trees in larger pots. Um, and yeah, that one is a wrap. And don't worry, we will review them all at the end when we check out Turntable 2. Let me clear this off. I always like this next tree. To me, it seems like, let me get it over here. It seems like, I don't think it's a twin trunk. It might be a twin trunk. Yeah, it probably is. But I mean, it badly needs pruning, so we'll take care of that. But I kind of want to put it in this shape, and to me, it reminds me of a tree you'd see on an island or something. Maybe Tahiti. I've never been to Tahiti, but this is what I imagine the trees might look like, or Hawaii. I definitely see trees that kind of have this sort of feel to it there. And initially I was styling this as sort of a mother-daughter tree, so I want sort of a bigger tree on one side, and then kind of a smaller tree. Even though I think it's one tree, it sort of looks like two, um, and a smaller tree beside it. And yeah, and I love the pot. This is a pot by David George. And I can't remember where he's from. I think he's in the Pacific Northwest. But if you go on 99 Cent Bonsai and look him up, he regularly sells these tiny pots on there. And look at how charming this thing is. It's got all kinds of texture. I love the shape of the pot. And he has, I'm not as into the style, but he has a lot of pots with faces on them, or like pots that are um, kind of either shaped like or reminiscent of heads or faces, and they're kind of neat. And I think it's actually a style, a cultural style of some culture does that with pots and pottery, and so I don't know his history, but definitely check him out. It's super super interesting and unique. I haven't really seen other folks doing that. So let me just clean this one up. Like I said, I think it just needed a little bit of a tune up. I believe this is also a cork bark, and I think this came off of what I call my crabapple Portulacaria. We'll take a tight look at it. Yeah, definitely one tree, and keeping it small and keeping it interesting, and that one is a wrap. So once again, I'll clear it off, and I'll show you what we cut off all these. It's kind of always astounding to me when you review that at the end. Let's see, this one. So this one I call the alien. Um, you might remember this tree is not even a year old. It was also a cutting, and I did a video on water propagation. Again, I'll link that, and you can check it out. And so this one came, and it had these these roots coming out the bottom, and the tree really reminded me of something like out of War of the Worlds, like especially with the roots were super interesting. And so I toyed around with different pots and decided to put it in this pot, and I think it really works. And you can see it's grown quite a bit, and just needs to be tuned up. I should also mention these little clay pots, um, these simple pots like this. I think they're charming. They're well made. They have a lot of detail. They're inexpensive. If you search on Amazon, you'll find them. If I can find the link, I'll put it in the video description. But they're nice. They're really tiny. They're perfect size. They work really well. They have a decent sized drainage hole. And you can see they build character pretty quickly with as the fertilizer kind of leaches out on the bottom. It kind of makes it look older and more interesting. Really cutting this one back pretty hard. I found these trees that are new in their first year of growth, they really like to put out a lot of roots and just grow like crazy. Um, so I think I've got this one tamed back, sort of going with a main trunk and then this one off to the right. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. We're just going to let this one grow some more. Once again, let's see. Let's pick this one. So this one, it's just a basic tree. As you can see, it's done really well. It's got 3 huge shoots thickening everything up there. And we're going to cut it back. I think to me the most interesting thing about this tree is the pot. I just love this pot. Um, I oftentimes name my trees. Sometimes I name the pots. This one I kind of like to think of it as like purple rain because I mean I look at it and it literally looks to me like something you would call purple rain. It's a beautiful purple color and it's kind of I don't know, a little bit matted, but if you look at it closely, it's got all kinds of colors in there and it's a little bit kind of diffuse looking. It's just a lovely pot. I think this one's a Japanese pot. I've forgotten where I got it or how long I've had it, but it's just another aspect of these mame are the pots. They're typically much less expensive and they're so interesting. And the thing that always blows me away, like when you zoom in on them, like take a picture or a video, it's very hard to tell. Like you might think it's you know, a 15-inch pot because the scaling's all gone if there's no point of reference in there. But wow, I really cut this one back hard, which is kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted a chunky little trunk and to keep it small and interesting. You can see a bit of that pot. It's got a bit of red and kind of silver and black flicks in it and just charming. And let's see. This is a interesting pot. Like you can see, this one really likes to grow out the bottom. It's a cute pot. Gosh, the name is escaping me now. I'll put a link in the video description, but this is a pot I got off Etsy. And I'm kind of growing this one in sort of a bush style, this tree. I just want it to be sort of I don't know. I don't have too many that are kind of that style, like low, and you don't really see much of the trunk. So I'm gonna try that with this, and um, yeah, it's a cute pot. It actually has a little um, foot on it, right? And Brightside Bonsai, that is the name of it. Look him up on Etsy, and I think Robert. It's amazing to me how the brain works. Like you forget about thinking about something, and sometimes things come. It doesn't often happen for me anymore, but it just did. Anyway, I was quite sick some time ago, and I had bought some pots off Robert, and I don't know, somehow he'd sent me a note. Oh no, he had shipped some pots that somehow got lost in the shipping, and so we kind of went back and forth, and shared a little bit about ourselves. And he sent me this as a gift, right? So it was just so charming. And I really like it, and I love his style of pots. And most of them are big and chunky. I didn't even realize he did these small pots. But check out his store. Does fabulous work and just an all around great person to work with. And that one is ready to go back in the tray. Here's another little tree. Looks like it lost some soil out of there. Yeah. I probably should have pruned the roots off of that, but that doesn't. PAs don't seem to mind. So let's see. This little tree. This is a little Japanese pot, and I think it says Spring Joy on the side of it. And it's this is a Portulacaria afra aurea or golden leaf, and it's a cutting off of um, one of the trees that I think I pruned up not too recently on the channel here that I sort of call Apollo because of the gold. But you can see this variety really miniaturizes nicely, and you can see some of the yellow leaves here, like the new leaves come out in this beautiful yellow, and then over the course of I don't know, probably 2 months they kind of turn kind of to a lime color and then to more of a green color. And it's a nice variety, and you can see it gets really, really tiny leaves and grows in very, very thick. So pruning is always a bit of a. Let me bring it in closer here. Always a bit of a challenge on these because it is dense, but just really grows well, and they seem to hold up to heat. Like I mean, PAs do anyway, but these ones really dare you to give them too much light, and grows really well. And you can see a little bit of this pot. I really like it's black. I don't have too many black pots, but I think the black and the green and sort of the silver on the bark, really works. And yeah, so I may get some more. It's not a dark black. It's got some I don't know, kind of a. It's not a jet black. It's kind of an interesting kind of grayish color. And I also got this pot off of Etsy. And uh, you know, um, yeah, check out. Just search on bonsai pot, or I usually search on Japanese bonsai pot because I just kind of like those pots. There's so much stuff there. You can spend a good half of an afternoon checking things out. And yeah, so I'm just taking this one way back, my typical down to one set of leaves, and we'll let it branch out and go from there. They typically don't look good when I'm done, but I kind of like to get it down to the point where I can see the trunk structure and the branches, and then sort of work it on from there and let it grow. But you can see, it's a cute little tree. To me, it looks again like one of those orchard trees, like maybe it's an apple tree. I can imagine some kids kind of um, scooting up the trunk to pick some low hanging fruit. Here is let me see. I think I have another aria. Uh, yeah, I've got a lot of dirt and stuff in there. I love these rubberized turntable, but stuff sticks to it. Yeah, here's another aria. It's in this cute little 6-sided pot. This is from the same set I mentioned when I mentioned those clay pots before on Amazon. Inexpensive, super detailed, just lovely pots. You can see it's developing some patina on it and some character. Um, and yeah, same comments as with the previous tree. Like these really like to grow in thick, and so you cannot spare the scissors, or before you know it, you'll just have an overgrown mess on your hands. It's funny, sometimes pruning these, you can see as I'm cutting it, the whole tree's wobbling. So sometimes you're better off just pick it up and turn it in your hand in your hands and really kind of work with it. It's got a lot of base growth, which is kind of new. I don't think I've ever pulled this one out of the pot to see what's going on. It's one of the things I like about these little clay Amazon pots like this. For some reason, the roots don't seem to clog it up. Like it's one of the issues with Mame pots. You really have to be on it to check them. I'm gonna say every, I don't know, 4 months, certainly every 6 months, because the roots just clog up the bottom, and especially with succulents, that causes moisture to stay down there, even though it's not much, and so you can't tell by the weight of the pot, and you'll see the bottom of the roots will be rotted out. Um, charming little tree. Probably could take a bit more off of it, but I think I'm just going to let that one go. But yeah, as I was saying, yeah, you want to check the mame fairly often. They typically survive root rot. Uh, I guess, I mean, most of my ports have. Bringing this guy in by the hairs, I don't recommend that, but it was in the middle and I had a hard time getting it out. You can see this one is really taken off. It's another mame cork barker, and I'm just going to cut back this crazy growth. This one also, I mean, you can see by that very aggressive growth. It's kind of new in the pot, and when they're putting down roots, they really shoot that out. And now that it has roots that have probably gone a good way to fill the pot, it typically get much tighter, less aggressive growth. This is a little teapot. This was a sake pot, and I drilled a hole in it. You can check my videos if you want to see how to do that. There's a nice hole drilling kit you can get on Amazon. Makes it super easy and it's kind of fun, and you can get some really nice pots like this. It's sort of this beautiful kind of matted green, and my wife and I drank sake out of this for 20 years before we broke some of the sets. So you know it's got some good memories with it too, which I kind of like. This is a cute little tree, and nice stumpy trunk. And yeah, I think this is kind of like a mini baobab. Look at that one, quite charming. Always amazes me how big it looks once you prune it up, and you can really notice the trunk. Oh, let's bring in one of my favorite mame. This is kind of like I guess you call it a semi-cascade, and it really needs a prune. This is a Portulacaria afra Manny variety. And to me, I kind of think of Manny as like it's sort of got 1 foot in the regular port world and 1 foot in the variegated world. And you sort of get this creamy, greenish white, where it's sort of like almost a matted look. I just really like it. And the leaves are a cool, I call it like a clamshell shape. They kind of look like a clamshell and they're kind of wavy on the edges like a clamshell. So I really, really like this variety. This one, I have, I don't know, 4 of these, and this is one of the ones that um, I wasn't having a lot of luck with the styling with it. I just wasn't impressed with it. So one day I looked at it and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna put that. I think that would make a great mame, uh, semi cascade. And so I held it up to this pot, and a light went off in my head, and then I put it in here, and I think it really works. It's really getting miniaturized now. It's been in here for I don't know, a couple of years now, and the leaves are almost getting. They're so tiny. They almost look like they're like a dwarf of a dwarf or something, right? They're very tight and almost like a ball. I'll bring it in closer here at the end. But yeah, I'm just kind of bringing it back into shape, and I wanted to have that kind of cascade look where all the growth is kind of going over the edge of the pot. I don't really want stuff coming to the other side. And just like the tree before it, I think you notice already, like once you get that growth under control, you can really see how charming the trunk is, and it really showcases the trunk. It just makes a huge difference, and yeah, these are just so much fun to work on. I mean, how many bonsai can you hold between your thumb and your and your index finger and work on, So, and it's getting nice bark, and like I said, I'm just kind of pruning this one back. I was hoping that stump would get some growth. It looks like it has a leaf kind of coming out on it, so I'm not going to give up on it. But yeah, one of my favorite Mame, and one of the channel favorites. Many folks always kind of ask about this little tree, and yeah, it's quite a little charmer. And the pot is nice too. I got the pot again. It's like one of those not expensive pots on Amazon. So while we're working on these Cascade, let me see. I'll bring in another one of my favorite Mame. Let's see if I can get it out here. Here it is. And this is again, this is a you can see it's got really tiny, tiny, tight holes. This is a pot I got off Etsy, off the same seller as that square black pot I talked about a little while ago. But you really got to be on this one for the roots. And I can tell there's a problem here. Normally this thing is vibrantly healthy. Um, but you can see it looks a bit wilted and tired. I oftentimes wouldn't prune in this scenario. I'll repot it first, but it has so many leaves, I think it'll be fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and prune it up. And then we will pull it out of the pot and have a look at what's going on with the roots, which is all I always recommend that. The first sign of trouble, pull it out and take a look at the roots, because it's probably, if you can't identify any pests on it, it's probably what you got going on. And it didn't need too much pruning up. Like I said, I don't want to go too hog wild because I think we have a root problem, and we'll come back to that one. And, like I said before, that is a prime example of these tiny pots. You really have to watch that the roots don't clog up the hole. This is an interesting one. This is a remnant. I had a mini forest planted in here. Again, they were water cuttings I did. And I typically, when I send cuttings out to people, I'll throw a little rooted tree in there as well. So this is the last of the Mohicans. Its two siblings have already gone off to live somewhere else. And this one is just kind of laying in the pot, but I'm kind of doing an experiment, and the roots were on the ground and they seem to be sinking down in now. So who knows, maybe it'll become a decent semi-cascade, and we'll check in on that one in a future video. So I think that is all the trees. I think there were 12. I didn't count them. I used to have 12. Let's take a look at what we cut off. You can see, I mean, considering the size of these trees, that is a lot of foliage. And look at that, even some large cuttings. I could do. The cuttings are larger than the tree. And yeah, that is it for the pruning of these tiny trees. And I'll bring in the tray and we'll take a look at it. And I think a good thought for the day is, sort of variety is the spice of life, and you might say, what are you talking about, Tom? You've got all succulents. And all right, point taken. But variety in terms of pots and trees and styles and just having fun with it. And you can see my little dragon keeping watch here. And it's a little tight in here. I should probably thin this out a bit. But vastly better than it was. And this will go back under lights, and we'll let these guys grow on and develop some more. All right, here we go. I mentioned we have to have do some doctoring on this. Yeah, I don't think it's too far gone. I mean, these are really hard to kill. But you can see it just looks kind of limp and lifeless, and I think it's because of these tiny, tiny holes. They can easily get clogged. And so we're going to pull this little fella out of the pot. Easily comes out. Yeah, you can see we've got just a mass of roots down there. And, what I've found typically happens, and thank God I have this really, it's just all organic, free-draining soil. But, the water gets trapped in the bottom. And then those roots stay wet and die. And then the tree can't get any water, because all the roots down with the water are dead. And so, it wilts. And, you'll see this, you see it a lot in these tiny trees because, like I said, it's just more apt to happen. But, full-size trees as well. I mean, this is what a tree looks like when it gets wet. And, you really should take some action. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to take a ton off, but I just sort of comb it out a little bit. And, you can feel the roots and you can tell what is kind of soggy and just kind of nasty and not healthy, and I just cut that off, um, and then repot it, So, and what I found is, this thing will no doubt sulk for 2 to 3 weeks, but then it'll it'll kind of get in gear and take off again. So I'm even going to use the same little square here. You can see it, it just peeled right off of it there. And it is super fine, but I mean, the holes in the bottom of the pot are even finer. And the thing I like about this is it bends like the pot on the bottom here is not, it's kind of rounded. And so, you know, uh, a screen that bends is just essential. So not much to it. That is it in terms of the root pruning and getting the pot ready again. Boy, look at the patina on the bottom of this one. What a beautiful pot. It's like a brown smoke. I'm going to try a different soil here. I've been using this Akadama mix that I got from a seller on Facebook, and it's really fine. It's for Shohin. And, you know, it's got Akadama and lava and really small particle sizes. And it just looks good, and I think it's going to work really well for these Mame. This is the first Mame I've tried with this. I just recently kind of got this soil. I mean, you can see my previous soil was pretty fine, but um, I think the Akadama in there, rather than just mostly rock and a little bit of bark, is going to work well because, like I said, I have to water these things a lot. And so I think that'll help. So we'll do an experiment. We'll see how it works with this tree, and if I like how that works, I'll apply it to all of them as I repot them. So I just dump the soil in there. It's a really nice particle size for Mame. You can see, like, you don't want to notice the soil. That's always my thing. And so you kind of want it to disappear. And, this really helps with that because it's so fine. And I don't know if I'm going to put the rock back in here. Sometimes I like the rock because these trees are in the, well, it seems to be staying there quite well on its own. These trees kind of get jumbled around a bit because I have a lot of them in a tray, and as I'm moving things around, sometimes they get pushed this way or that way. So I kind of like something in there, at least while they're growing roots, to keep them steady. Let me see if I can get this one in. I just kind of push it in with my spoon. This spoon is just fabulous. I like it. It's like a chopstick, a spoon. I can pry things. I can just work the soil in. It's nice and fine, and it's yeah. I recommend a spoon. Give it a try if you haven't already. Oh, this is a specialized spoon for repotting, but I find it super super helpful for this. So I'm just gonna work the soil in a little bit here. We sort of bare rooted it, but like I said, I think it'll be fine. I will give this one a little bit of water, just because it's kind of a tall pot, so the water quickly is going to drain past those roots anyway. There's none at the bottom, and it is really dry, so I think that'll help. But it's a beauty. I mean, we'll nurse this tree back to health, and the next time you see it, I am quite confident that it'll be in robust shape once again. That's a wrap. I want to thank you for spending time with me, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. I hope you enjoyed all this Mame pruning. And yeah, I recommend it if you don't have any tiny trees. They are just so rewarding and fun to work on. And see you until next time.